Oh, hey guys, it's it's Michael here again. Um, I realize this is a little bit different of an intro for this video, but for those who somehow haven't seen yet my original puppy rescue video from some time ago, it's with a heavy heart and slight bittersweetness as well that I have to mention that our little puppy fostering journey is over. It just ended today, at the time that this is being recorded. Since I can't figure out what to put in the background for this, here are two of their favorite little toys they would chew on when they were here. So I wanted to just kind of recap my little journey here, since, of course, on my Discord server, links are everywhere for that, I did detail the entire journey with these little goobers. Now, it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows, of course. It's also been kind of a pain, because, of course, with any young thing, be it a puppy or a child, it is going to it's a strenuous situation. It is at times, because they will truly test your patience. And matter of fact, a few nights ago, they actually decided it would be a great idea to have a huge fight in the middle of the night, wake up everybody in the house, and we were basically all grumpy all day because of them waking the whole house up because of their nonsense. But anyhow, so let me focus a little more on the positive, shall we, of what I liked about these little guys for the short time we had them. In this case, 2 months. So for those who, again, haven't been following the journey, we started this journey right February of this year, when I discovered one of our neighbor's little baby Rotties, right, trapped under this little bit of fencing on the side of the house. It was in really bad shape, right? And it was practically dead the moment I found him, unfortunately. Now, thankfully, he was still relatively, I think it was a he, was still relatively alive by the time I found him. Which, to this day, my parents still don't understand how I was able to hear him, but I somehow managed to, with my super hearing, apparently, I could just hear the little guy whimpering, as quiet as it was. But I found him, brought him back to his owners. Of course, they praised me like I was Superman, right? Which I practically was, especially with my super hearing that I had there for a split moment. You know what I mean? And that, for a while, was kind of it. That was until, of course, right, we found out some time ago after that discovery, that there was a much larger litter that we just didn't know existed yet. Fortunately, the majority of them passed away. First of all, because their mother, not their human caretaker, more so the mother, wasn't mature enough to handle these little guys, so some of them literally got smothered to death. And the one that I did save, unfortunately, passed away due to exposure. So that just left the 4, which we dubbed the names Zeus, Apollo, Adonis, and I can't remember the other one's name. Zeus, Apollo, Adonis, and then hold on 1 second, guys. And Ares, yes. So Ares, Adonis, Zeus, and Apollo, right? And they were adorable. They were adorable when I got them. Now, I will say, for closure as well, that I wasn't crazy about them at first. Because, it had been some time since I'd sired any puppies and ever since I got my very first dog ever, my silver lab named Spencer, right? And he was a Christmas present some years ago, and I loved the snot out of him. Loved him to bits. He was like my best friend. But sadly, he would pass away due to bloat because he got a hold of something he wasn't supposed to, and unfortunately, that ended up being his Achilles heel. Yes, I realize, Reed Squad, it's sad. I do. And I sometimes still think about him every now and again. Because he was one of the best dogs I ever had. But, you know, natural selection's a real thing. And I guess he was, for better or for worse, selected. And he wasn't long for this world anymore because of that. Sure, we could have had a surgery on him that would have saved his life, but the chances of that going through were slim. Let alone it lasting without just resetting itself, if you will. So, that was very sad. Then, of course, sometime later I would get, I guess you could say, Spencer's wife of sorts. Zoe came into the picture. Border Collie mix. She was okay, even if she was a little aloof. And sometimes just a little bit aggressive. Especially when it came to feeding. But, again, she would pass away due to natural causes as well. As I had detailed in my original server. Before stuff happened with that. And then that just leaves, right, my current two dogs now. Sienna and Max. A white lab and I believe it's a pit bull mix, I want to say. Because she is a stocky one. And they've been doing pretty okay for themselves. Though I do find it rather hilarious that we tried to get them socialized with these little guys that we've been fostering and everything. They were terrified of them. I have no idea why, but they wanted nothing to do with them. And I was more shocked with Sienna than I was Max, because our white lab, right, he's a bit of a goofball, so I didn't expect him to really take to them because he's just too goofy to understand what babies are, really, and how to treat them. But I would have thought that our Sienna, right, would have at least tried to, like, settle down with them. But nope, she wanted nothing to do with them. She was out of there. She had that Scooby-Doo run, you know what I mean? She was out of there. So it's just really, really funny that these tiny little guys just come up to them and they're just like, "Hey, you," and they're just like, "Nah, we are out of here." No. They wanted no part of that. It's just really funny. But anyway. So, what other positives were there? Well, when they were still, like, really, really young, they really took to me quite quickly, I will say. I actually have some photos proving it, where they would just nuzzle with me, and they would just sit there, and they would just kind of sniffle at me, or, just kind of just snuggle up, or whatever case may be. And those were the good times, you know what I mean? Because I would just sit there, and they would just kind of nuzzle up with me, and they were so cute and pocketable, It was a really just nice time. Of course, for some of my other family friends, or case maybe, I sent a whole bunch of videos of them and how cute they were. When they were little babies, and I would just keep them in our bathtub. That's where we kept them for a while. This big old bathtub we had in one of our other rooms. We kept them in. And then, of course, they got too big for that, so we had to get them a little, what we called the puppy condo. Basically, this massive metal cage that would kind of, like, go around this little area, right, that we made. And had a heating pad under there. Of course, we had, like, a special pad for them and everything. And, of course, oh, boy, I will never forget, especially now, since, like I said, they went back to their parents today, at least that time this is being recorded. All of the wee pads, we'll say, that we had to change out. That was not fun. It seemed like every other day we were doing it because they would pee, they would poo everywhere, and even now we're still trying to get some spots out of the carpet. But anyway, so aside from that, their personalities really started to come through, especially in these last few days. Where Apollo was the noisy one. We called him Crazy Jim because he literally looked like Dr. Wily from Mega Man. Like, I swear to God, he looked exactly like Dr. Wily. It was hilarious. Anyway, so that was him. And then Adonis and Ares were the two twins. I believe they were genetic twins. And they were adorable. I especially liked Adonis because Adonis was the most well-behaved. He was a little gentleman. He would kind of come up. He would kind of like jump on me. And I would just hold him for a bit, and give him some kisses, or a kiss maybe, and he would, lick me, and whatnot. So he was great. And then Ares, he's kind of the same. He was a little more aloof compared to Adonis. And then Zeus was just a bully. He just was, because he was the biggest of them. Heavy little goober, especially in his final days. I mean, he was hefty, And he would always try to boss the other two around, as he would always be the one to instigate fights. Because, yes, of course, being almost 2 months old, you can imagine how much fighting they would do. And it wasn't over food or anything like that. They literally would just, nothing would be happening, and they would just instigate fights. It was just really, really funny. It seemed like the only things they wouldn't fight over, surprisingly, were, at least to a lesser extent, food. Particularly baby formula and mush, as they call it. Right? And, well, a place to sleep, it seemed. Other than that, it was like Fight Club in this house 24/7. You know what I mean? It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so aside from that, of course, that was one thing that was kind of a sticking point with us, was, of course, all the fighting they would do. Because they would fight over everything. So, aside from those things. And when they would fight, they would go on for literally friggin' hours, people. I kid you not. Like, if they were still here right now, I bet you in the background you would hear them fighting. Because that's just how frequently they would do it. You could blink. Literally, you could blink right now. As a matter of fact, as you watch this video, do it. Blink right now. And yeah, that's exactly how quick a fight would start. Right? And then blink again. And yeah, another fight would start. There was never a moment where they were not fighting over something. Right? Or biting each other's faces, or pushing each other over, especially Zeus. I mean, he's probably the most like pushiest of the bunch. But yeah, so what else can I say about them? Well, they loved chips. In particular, they loved my Lay's Classics. I don't know why, but they really liked my chips. So that was the one thing that I could use to bribe them into doing anything, was to shake my little chip box or bag or whatever, and they would come running right towards it. Because that's the only way I could get them to actually go to bed. Or at least go to where they're supposed to sleep. Was doing that. So, there was that. And, what else? Oh, yeah, either that or their toys that they had. Which I find hilarious, the fact that we got toys for them, right, fairly early on. And they didn't like any of the toys that we bought for them, but they love the two that are on screen currently. Especially the little hedgehog over there. Don't know why, but they loved going after it. They would jump on it, they would bite on it, they would thrash it everywhere. Yeah, just really, really something. That was what they would do. And, of course, I did feed them baby formula, and we would all take turns feeding them. And that was interesting as well, because at first it was a little bit difficult because the bottles weren't exactly the proper size. So we would later order more, right? And then these ones that we got off Amazon worked a lot better. I don't have them currently because they're currently in the wash, but they are there. Actually, no, I think it went back over with our neighbors next door. I think. I'll double check that. But we did have those, and yeah, they would drink out of those, and that went pretty swimmingly. Even though he did have one freak accident where I believe it was Apollo. Yeah, this was still when he was like not even a few days in, where he almost choked to death over some baby formula. Thankfully, that was just a freak accident, and he would later start to drink more properly like the others. That, and I believe Apollo was the most, how I say this, not really malnourished as it was, he was the most lethargic of the group. So we had to get him some booster formula, we'll say. And that thankfully brought him up with the others. So that was kind of scary for us for a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And I think with all of that, I think that pretty much rounds out everything I really have to say for this epilogue video. For those who have been following my journey on my Discord server, which, as I said, links everywhere for that, well, I hope you guys enjoyed me detailing that journey on there and everything, the ups and downs and the pictures and everything. Of course, for those who are following the journey on the server, I will be posting a whole bunch more pictures on there. I might shoot some videos. We'll have to see over that the higher ups will say have and what else? Of course, I'll do before and after pictures, all that type of stuff. So we can see how far they've progressed over 2 months. Not even, since we got them. And, yeah. That's, like I said, that's basically about it. Overall, this has been a mostly positive experience. And, at least to some extent, I wouldn't mind doing this all over again. Though more than likely, this is probably going to be one of those once-in-a-lifetime type deals, where it happens once, and then that's it. I'll probably never do it again. But at least I was able to do it whilst I did. And you know what? I helped somebody that was in need. We all did. But yeah, guys. So if you enjoyed this Marguerite Talks video, please make sure to drop a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, and ring that notification bell so that way you guys get notified for all my uploads. And there we squad, and have a good one.